What's up, guys? We're going to talk about Act 3 of Julius Caesar. It's intense, okay? Get ready. It's a lot. Okay, so right here, guys, on this part of your packet, don't worry about that. You should have had your names assigned. You got it. Whatever, okay? Next, we have our vocab. Okay, so here we're looking again for synonyms instead of definitions. So what words can replace that word? So let's go over what I came up with. Yours might be a little different from mine, and that's okay. All right, so perpetrators, I said, is criminals. All right? Endeavor is also known as undertaking. You can say that. Banished is to remove. Decree is a law. Pardon is grace, and that means like to give grace to someone or to pardon someone from whatever that might be. Repeal is withdrawal. Unassailable, I said, was conclusive. You might have some other words for that one, but I chose conclusive. That made sense to me. And then mutiny, I said riot or an uprising, something about a group of people kind of going against what was happening, okay? Now these next two don't have synonyms, but instead have definitions or translations, okay? So et tu, Brute, very famous line we're going to talk about means and you, Brutus, okay? So that one you don't have a synonym for, but make sure you have and you, Brutus there, please. And then friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. This is Antony's appeal to the Romans after Caesar dies. Super, super, super famous Shakespeare line. You've heard it many times before, I'm sure. So just make sure you have that written down, either what it means or that it's Antony's appeal. All right? Cool. So guys, let's talk about the main events. This is so juicy. Let's talk about what happens, all right? So Act 3, Scene 1 opens March 15th. At the Senate. The soothsayer's been telling us for all this time, watch out, and here it is, right? So here's what we got. Caesar arrives at the Senate. He is trying to be given that letter that we talked about in Act 2 when the letter literally says, like, these people will kill you, Caesar. And guess what? Caesar refuses the letter. He doesn't care. What a surprise, right? Okay. And then Casius and the conspirators. So their plan was to ask for pardon or forgiveness of a senator. That was just to put on an act for everyone else that was around. So the people at the Senate, some of the plebeians, they said, okay, we're going to fake this, right? So Casius goes up and some of the conspirators and they say, would you please pardon or forgive Publius Cimber, right? And Caesar says no. And that is their excuse or reason for go ahead and stabbing him because they didn't agree with his political decision there. We know otherwise, though. We know they've been planning this for a while, right? Okay. So Casca is the first to stab Caesar. It's a super bloody scene, stabby all over the place, right? And then Brutus is the last one to stab him. That is the ultimate act of deception, and that is where we get that famous line, et tu, Brute. Caesar looks at Brutus and says, and you, Brutus, and there's just a lot of power packed in that sentence, right? Okay. And then Mark Antony, so we see him. So scene 3, you would think it's done, like Caesar is stabbed and we're done. But scene 3, Act 1, excuse me, Act 3, Scene 1, holy moly. Act 3, Scene 1 keeps going, right? So you would think that it's over, but it's not. Mark Antony shows up and he's upset and is trying to put the conspirators in a bad light. So he sees this as his chance to kind of take power. And so he's now trying to get the plebeians on his side, okay? So super intense there. All right, Act 3, Scene 2. These numbers are killing me, guys. Act 3, Scene 2. Next, so again, you would think it's done. Like, Caesar's dead, now what, right? There's actually a lot more that happens, right? So now we're in the crowd around the Senate. There's lots of plebeians involved, some senators, but mostly just the people of Rome. And here is where Brutus stands up and he gives a speech explaining why the conspirators killed Caesar. He's speaking from the heart, guys. He's really intense about what he says, really vulnerable and raw, just saying that, you know, this is what I had to do. I had no choice. I had no option. Trying to clear his name, right? Okay. And so then, the people of Rome are like, okay, we understand. We get that, right? You're keeping us safe. It's all about liberty and freedom. But then Mark Antony comes, right? And Antony gives his famous speech, the friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Again, super, super famous line. I'm sure you've heard it before, okay? The reason it's so famous, we'll talk more in class about, but it was when Mark Antony just sways the entire crowd, right? He gets everyone on his side. And so he convinces the plebeians that Caesar wasn't ambitious, which is why Brutus says he killed Caesar. He was too ambitious. We needed our freedom. Antony says he was not ambitious, right? Listen to me. He really works the crowd, okay? And Antony says, well, Caesar refused the crown 3 times. That's not ambitious, right? That's humble. Caesar loved you guys, right? He had your best interest at heart. And then finally, Caesar was going to give you money. Why would you kill someone, right, that was going to do those things? And now the plebeians, unfortunately, really buy what Antony has to say. They fall right into his trap, and now they want to kill the conspirators, okay? So we'll study all of that in class more, but super intense. Once again, really lots of tension is building. We have 2 kind of clashing sides now. All right, and then finally, this is just a short little scene, but this one is also kind of telling of the intensity right now. Act 3, Scene 3, in the streets of Rome, the plebeians kill Cinna the poet, confusing him with Cinna the conspirator. So this is a super quick scene, but Cinna the poet is walking, and all these plebeians are like, who are you? Where are you from? What's your name? And he says, I'm Cinna. We know Cinna is a conspirator as well. They know that. They think that he's a conspirator. They kill him. Guys, that's really telling of the climate and culture in Rome right now, right? Not a good place to be. Super intense. Cool. All right, so let's talk about some themes. I saw a lot in here, okay? So my first one, I said betrayal. This line just really hit me hard, guys. It was hard to ignore that one. Et tu, Brute, okay? So I said that's the ultimate act of betrayal. I'm thinking from the eyes of Caesar, right? We know that Brutus makes this choice for many reasons, but when Caesar sees him and says that, it kind of shows betrayal to me. So I said Brutus is the last to kill Caesar, betraying their previous friendship. For me, that color is probably like a dark blue, right? Maybe even black at this point, just because it's an ugly act for everyone concerned. Okay? Make sure you have a direct quote here, please. Direct quote and page number. And then finally, I said manipulation, okay? Or I guess we have another one on this one too. So I said here, if you have tears, prepare to shed them now. This is when Antony's speaking, and he is trying to get the people of Rome right here in the heart, right? He's like, okay, let me come up and see Caesar's body. Oh, I'm so torn up. He's not torn up, right? He just wants the power. He wants to be in Caesar's position, or to be safe at least from the conspirators or the riots that are about to happen. So here I said Antony reverses the work of Brutus by playing up Caesar's death, right? Again, that's manipulation. It's not true, okay? For me, manipulation is like a light pink color, okay? And then finally, recklessness. Scene 3 really hit me hard too. A guy who's just walking down the street happens to have the same name as a conspirator, and he's dead, right? And so I said, for my quote, tear him apart, tear him up. Those are the plebeians yelling at Cinna the poet. And here I explained that the plebeians wrongly kill Cinna the poet, showing how Caesar's death is tearing Rome apart. That's an orange-red for me, right? It's just kind of crazy chaos right now. Rome is not the best place to be living, and I think that they show recklessness pretty well, okay? So guys, go back, pause this if you need to. Act 3 was super intense, so take a deep breath.